This is Signal and Noise, bringing clarity to data, tech, and AI.
All right. Well, welcome to Signal and Noise. I'm here with Vic Williamson. He's a full stack engineer. How you doing, Vic?
I'm doing great. How you doing, Lucas?
I'm all right. I mean, I'm excited to have this conversation because my role as head of product at Enlightened, I don't do nearly as much engineering or coding as I was hoping. I should have known better stepping into this kind of role. But I met Vic because you were one of the professors when I was getting my certificate in full stack. And my entire, reason for taking that class was because I thought it would make me better at being a product manager, being an executive. If you know how to build things and all the different pieces that go into it, front end, back end, databases, basics of coding. And I feel like my skill level is junior engineer still. I never progressed further than that. But it does make me better at my job and communicating with engineers. But so I figured you'd be a great person to have on because honestly, you were one of the professors that were the standouts, that you not only were really good as a teacher, which is, some of the most talented people in their industries, are terrible teachers. You know what I mean? Like it's a whole other skill set being able to be an instructor. But then also, you're a great communicator. So I figured, I'll get Vic on to talk about this topic about full stack engineering because I do feel like this entire industry is changing, and especially the full stack engineer, I feel like my prediction is more in demand. And we can get into my reasons why moving forward. But before we do, why don't we just give your origin story, your introduction, Vic? How did you get into computer science, coding, full stack engineering?
Yeah, I mean, really, I started coding way back when MySpace was a thing and you could customize your homepage and, work with the HTML and CSS. So I guess I had a really early introduction to web development as a type of programming. And that would be part of why my focus and roots started out in front-end engineering, because I was initially exposed to HTML and CSS, the stuff to design my little social media page. So starting out and going through school, when I took computer science courses, they were also in HTML, CSS. So starting out in my career, coming out of college, I took a lot of front-end engineering roles because I was initially exposed to the graphics of everything to make the page. So I feel like that's where my passion was like seeded and started to take root from.
And did you go to school for coding at that point, or you just kind of started dabbling with, MySpace and then you like going down the rabbit hole, learning stuff online? What was your journey there?
Yeah, that was my favorite part, I guess. I'm really just a nerd at heart. So I was fiddling around with code and figuring out, hey, I can do more than MySpace pages. I can make websites. Whoa. And then come senior year of high school, my school was one of the first ones in the district to get AP computer science. And I was like, oh, great, it's programming. And I already do this stuff. Let me go take this class. And my professor, my teacher, she was like, hey, are you thinking about studying this when you go to college? Like, here's some of the salaries. Like, these are real numbers. And she shows me on a website how much software engineers were making and web developers. I was like, what? I could get paid that much for this? I'm just dorking around doing it for free, making my friends MySpace pages. Wait a minute.
Yeah, it's a career
So
that pays
that's when
well,
I really like doubled down, right? And I decided to study it in college. Went a couple of years at Georgia Southern University in South Georgia, and then I transferred to Kennesaw State because they merged with Southern Polytechnic, which is one of the most prestigious technical colleges or technology schools in the South, next to like Georgia Tech. So I got a really good foundation and background in education with computer science, I guess from early on, teaching myself, self-taught, but then also starting to follow the structured path with a major and then a minor in psychology with a focus in human-computer interaction.
Interesting. Okay, I see some of the parallels. Like, my background coming from film and television and storytelling, I think has been a huge benefit in transitioning to this career. I do feel like most people who work in this industry should have some humanities under their belt. It'll just make them better at their jobs. But anyway, personal preference. So before we go too deep into it, can you tell me a little bit about like what is full stack, like the term? Because we're going to keep
Yeah.
using it. So people maybe who aren't so embedded in the industry, what does that mean?
Yeah, okay. One way that I like to describe it really, people think of the front end of an application being like the front of house. Think like a restaurant, who you're interacting with, waitresses, the hosts. That's what you're seeing. So it's like the graphics of an application, what people actually interact with, what you're clicking on, what you're typing into when you type into a search bar. The back end of an application being where all of the logic, the databases, the matrix code that drips down from the sky, all of that stuff, that's where that lives on the back end. So when you think of the back end, I would also say like system logic and business logic. When you think full stack, you're thinking end to end, the entire application, the graphics of it, and everything that the user sees, and then the back end of it as well, all of the data processing and data storage and all of those components of the system. You're getting like the end-to-end view, high-level view of an entire system with full stack engineering.
And then to continue that metaphor, you have the APIs. Those are like the door dashers that run out to get pick up other stuff from other restaurants.
Yeah, exactly. You know, back end, back of house. Those are the chefs back there, the line cooks. Shout out to all my people that work culinary.
I love the using a restaurant as a metaphor for it. It's perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah. So honestly, the full stack thing to me was most interesting. It's why I got a certificate in it, was because of the, understanding all sides of it, and
Yes.
and also as somebody who's just curious, like I could never just focus on only one, one part, because it's just, I want to understand how all the pieces fit together. I had a similar experience getting involved in development because I started building in no code. I started using Bubble. You ever hear of like bubble.io? Just because we need to get some websites up and running for my startup I had. And somebody had to do it. And it's funny because I kept finding out the limitations very quickly. Like it works great when you do the canned stuff out of the box. But once you start wanting to manipulate it a little bit, to personalize it, customize it, all of a sudden I'm learning CSS. I'm learning HTML. I'm learning basic, JavaScript. And I just started being self-taught, watching YouTube videos. And that's when I realized, I was like, I really need to get a formal education, because you can teach yourself a lot nowadays. It's incredible. But I think being able to teach yourself is a valuable skill you're going to need in any industry, and especially in computer science. But taking a formal class, I think, is very important. Like for me, it gave me a structured learning. And it introduced me to you and other professors, and it expanded my network. It's like why you go to college, right? Is for not just the information, you go for all the human part of it. So anyway,
Exactly.
I would recommend if
No, I
somebody's like
couldn't admit that.
deciding whether to do that or not, like you might want to consider it.
You should. You should. I actually tell people that across the board. I have a lot of hobbies and interests. I'm also a musician. I play the drums and I'm learning bass and stuff like that. And then I'm also like a competitive bodybuilder. And so I'm in the gym, like I'm a gym rat and all of that stuff. But across the board, I recommend that when people truly want to push to the next level, get a coach. Even my coach has a coach, and he learns something new every day. And then he teaches me what he learns, and it trickles down. Well, that's some like nice, true trickle down economics there, where you can get like generational knowledge through, having a coach. Maybe not just anybody. You definitely see somebody you jam with that, resonates with you and that you vibe with. But with anything you do, you can teach yourself so much, and that's a handy skill. But when you feel like you're plateauing and you're not quite getting any more results that you need, you don't always have to have a coach. Me personally, I always have a coach, but sometimes that's not feasible for people. But if you feel like you're stalling out and plateauing, definitely get a coach, get a teacher, get a mentor, get somebody else that you can collaborate with on your journey.
Yeah, I
And
love that
so I
advice.
can parallel that with like all of my interests, especially software engineering. So I'm glad you mentioned it.
Well, I'll say that you're an instructor as well. And being a coach, being an instructor is a great way to learn too. I mean, when I was teaching film and television, I really learned what I was doing. I knew what I was doing, on the set, on a production, but having to then communicate that to somebody who doesn't know forces you to learn your material that much better and be able to communicate it.
Yeah.
So yeah, get a coach, be a coach.
That's why I
right?
got into it. You wanted that as a segue.
Yeah.
That's exactly why I became a mentor with Great Learning and just got into the tutoring. And I wasn't paying attention to how many people describe me as a strong communicator until that point. And I was like, you know what? I want to have deep knowledge of my domain. And I always hear that, you truly understand something when you could teach it to somebody else, or even better, teach it to a child.
Hmm.
So, like, how plainly can I explain this, especially in the context that, maybe people are coming from other disciplines. Maybe they're coming from a film background and now they're learning software engineering. You can't just get people all caught up in technical jargon. So I'm glad you brought that up too, especially. I think that software engineering as a whole is something that can be so related to natural, like, occurrences in life and modeled through object-oriented programming. You start to break it down like, oh, well, I'm just describing things in real life. And I don't know. It should be a very natural language type thing to do.
For sure. Well, so for being, full stack, that means you have to cover a lot of surface area, as you were saying, front end, back end, databases, APIs, deployments. So is it like, it's obviously not enough just to be kind of mediocre at everything. I mean, how do you find depth in all those different fields when you approach that?
Yes, I do think that almost everybody that is a full stack engineer now, or at least a very good one, started with one end of the stack and got like an established roots there. That's what I did. And a lot of my colleagues that were also full stack engineers, they started out through front end engineering like I did, being more interested in the graphics and kind of design of things, or they started out more interested in data and like numbers and processing and more on the back end. They start out there, and then you start to realize through, I guess, if you're a back-end engineer, you have to know how to discuss things and interface with front-end engineers on your team. And then vice versa. If you're a front-end engineer, you need to know how to collaborate with back-end engineers. You start to realize the importance, and at least I feel like once you work with someone and collaborate on one, then you realize the importance and what's going on the other side. And then you start to research more. Well, oh, this other guy that I'm working with is always talking about React. Maybe I should look into that if that's what I'm writing the APIs for. And then vice versa. I know our backends are using, I don't know, MongoDB. So maybe there is some flexibility in the data models that can satisfy like this new feature that my boss wants me to make. And the designs are kind of, so we might need to get creative here. We might need something more flexible than a relational database approach. That's what I think is like you start somewhere and grow to appreciate the other side of the stack, and then start to leverage knowledge through the teams that you're on and like collaboration. And then next thing you know, you're a full stack engineer.
Yeah, it's funny because
definitely
I
came along
thought
the-
I was more of a front end guy. Like that was similar to you, what caught my interest. And once I started digging into data and like understanding a database and how like the power you have when you have like
Yes.
data to play with and all the different ways you can grab insights and interpret it, that's when I realized like, man, like I guess I'm a data backend guy, partly because of that. Like even though I still love the front end work, in fact, in creating the front end work is kind of more fun, like quote unquote fun for me. But the true like excitement that gets me waking up every day excited to go to work is like seeing what I can do with the data. But
You sound like a true full stack engineer. It seems
yes,
like the ends
exactly.
of the stack make you like wake up like, what a beautiful day. I love to hear it.
Yes, for sure. Would you look at engineering like 5 years ago? Because you've been at this for a little while now, like for a bit, right?
Yeah.
I mean, what is the big difference between like 5 years ago and now? What are kind of the biggest differences you've seen about how we like approach problems and solve problems? And I'm talking like we're not even jumping to the AI conversation yet. I just mean in the work you've experienced.
Okay, then, because you took it straight out of my mouth. I was gonna say the whole AI thing. It was really like the big elephant in the room. If I didn't say that, then I would honestly say like moving into next gen technologies like Next.js and some of those frameworks. Really, I see the full stack industry doubling down on server side rendering and taking that approach to building web apps. So that does like mean that as a whole we're focusing more on performance. So that would probably be the major difference that I've seen between then and now.
That's a
'Cause I
that's a
think
great
5 years
response because I've noticed too. Like,
Yeah.
people have expectations now how an app or a web app should behave, where it should be immediate and fast, and it's just crazy what the expectations people have now interacting with technology.
And I really think people are starting to be more flexible on the roles of the quote unquote front end and back end. And that's where it's stronger now than ever to be a full stack engineer that can be more flexible. I know how each side plays. I have
Mhm.
experience in both. And so, with server side rendering and even just the idea of it, even just the idea of the back end really driving things and the front end just housing all this data, and like thinking more along templates and layouts just being hydrated. Like even just the concept, it's a full stack concept. It's the same system that we're working on, but now you're leaning a little bit more on the back end to drive some graphical things.
Mhm.
Like it's a full stack concept, and some people might just be used to siloing and only being front end or back end.
Mhm.
But yeah.
Yeah. So what do you prefer to work in? Like, if you had a personal project you were going to develop, like what are the decisions you'd make, and why would you do that?
Yeah. Lately I've been working with Next.js, dude. I really enjoy it. I think TypeScript is something that's blown up within the last 5 years. And going back to that, like, TypeScript is very useful and that's being appreciated and utilized more nowadays. Just having some type safety in web development ain't a bad thing.
No,
We don't
definitely
have
not.
to save all the type safety for Java and C Sharp. Um, and I just like that a lot of the modern like tooling is very supportive of Next.js. All the blogs, all the stuff from the community, everybody's saying Next.js is my go-to. I would almost say that I'm not a late bloomer on it. I was the first person to lead a migration at Baxter for us to move some of the old legacy software to Next.js. But I would say like it wasn't until I went to a conference and saw something demoed in it, I was like,
Not bad.
okay, I'm sold.
Yeah. I mean, to me, that's always the exciting thing is like playing with the new technology, learning new things, can be very rewarding. But at the same time, especially in business, like you don't have that learning curve is steep. As in, like you don't have time to invest playing around. I always try to have personal projects on the side I'm developing, and mostly it's for my own education. It's because I don't have the risk quota is too high at work. I can't do that. As well as I have too many other tasks and jobs I need to do for work. So I use those like side projects to experiment. So like I have for my family, I'm building this a video archive or media archive, I should call it, because it's photos too. But I was playing with Claude Code and like doing like the agentic coding, because I was like, oh, I'm sick of this Vimeo subscription. They keep raising the price and I never use it. And so instead I priced out what it would cost to just develop the infrastructure myself and build a personalized app. And the reason I'm saying this is because I use Next.js. but but honestly, that was with Claude. I essentially built the stack with it and architected ahead of time, and then
Genius.
and then ran with it. But anyway, that's for me is like
Love
that's how
that.
I get around that learning curve. But it is kind of scary at times to experiment with new technology in a way where you're unfamiliar with it, because there's a steep curve till you feel comfortable and you're proficient with it.
But that's why developing when you're working on personal projects and really even in the professional like workplace, developing out of need helps you drive to overcome that learning curve. Like, yo, I don't want to pay that much for this Vimeo subscription
Yeah.
anymore. I really could just take the time to put some elbow grease and sweat equity into it, and I'll come out with a new skill and my own personal
Yeah, trust me, my wife over the weekend was like, "You're still working on that thing?" I was like, "Oh, I know. I was only supposed to be like a side project this morning when I was having my coffee, and now it's like 3 p.m. and I'm still working on it." But you're right. It's because I didn't want to have to
dedicated.
spend the money and the
You'll thank me
resources.
later.
Yeah,
You'll thank me later.
exactly. You'll think.
For
You'll
when it's
think.
done.
So this is a good segue, I think. For say you're a younger engineer starting out today, like what is some of the advice you would give them on if they're thinking potentially about like, oh, do I want to be front end, back end, full stack? Like, what's the advice you would give to a young engineer starting out?
Oh, yeah. I would say if you're like Lucas and both sides really appeal to you off the bat, then you can there are great approaches, especially now for full stack engineering. Like check out Next.js. That's a framework that utilizes the front end and the back end very fluidly. Like and comprehensively. So that's something that I would say about Next.js and like how you can really be using React, which is an industry standard. So the fact that you're using React and Next.js is already going to give you that much more marketability in today's job market. But then I would really say if you're not like that and you're not jamming or you're not you don't care that much about the back end yet, or you don't care that much about the front end yet, you don't have to force yourself to do that. I would say for most people, pick the one that interests you the most and learn programming with your fundamentals just being founded in one or the other. And then you'll see the opportunity to gain the knowledge in the other. So I think long term, it would behoove you to be a full stack engineer, be full stack minded. I do still lean front end. So like in my resume and my LinkedIn, my professional profiles, I say I'm a full stack capable front end specialist because I've always been down with front end engineering, but I'm capable of working across the stack. And people do like to see that you have passion in one or the other. You're not like a jack of all trades. So establish yourself in one and then grow to understand the other. And you'll be a full stack engineer in no time if you just, take your interest and keep programming is the first
How
first piece of
important do you
advice.
think like design skills translates to being good at front end full stack? Because I'll say like I think maybe one of the reasons I also love data so much and get so into there is I'm not a designer, and like I think some of my favorite full stack engineers have like just an innate great eye and feel for design.
Yeah, that's where I guess some of like I said, I'm a musician as well. And that's where some of my creative aspects really kick in. My wife is actually, she has a degree in illustration and design. She went to art school. I've always been around artists. I feel like I kind of had the advantage there. More than some people to just have an eye for, that's a little too much margin. That's a little too much padding. That's not quite a line. Let me tweak this and ask the designer, oh, you know what? You're right. Hey, we're working together on this. If you have an eye for design, that's great. And that's an advantage in this market. I'll tell you, a lot of programmers can't design worth anything. If you give them a design, they can render it through code. I can code and make this appear. But asking them to design something is actually a rare skill set. So if you don't have an eye for design, there are some books. Don't quote me on it. I think it is like how to design things or designing things for the common person, something like that. It's like required reading at Apple, and Steve Jobs was really big about the book. And that's just something to look at the natural design of things, even like door handles and stuff like that. How easy are you making it for the person that's going to use it? That's a handy skill for anyone.
Oh, for sure. All right, I think it's time to kind of pivot to the topic of the day, the year, the elephant in the room, which is artificial intelligence and how large language models are really reshaping coding with agentic coding. So I would love to get, some of your thoughts and reaction on how it's been affecting, your role today as you see it, and also some of your predictions on what you think is, going to be in store for us over the next, few months, years.
Yeah. Let's see. As far as with my role and how I'm using AI, like right now, I think that agentic coding is really the way to go with how you're using it. I kind of think of AI as like working with a junior dev or somebody like that. We're able to pair program, work on tasks together. Some of the smaller coding tasks, I can leave that up to the agents, but I'm always supervising something. It's like, mentoring and working along with somebody, but always supervising, always double checking. I use Windsurf as my preferred IDE when I'm working. And, I'm just, what I like to lean on into is guardrails and just constantly having like a human in the loop. I don't just let it rip. I really have seen my role shift from writing code more to thinking of requirements and guidelines for how I want this AI to work for me and doing the dev work and then reviewing everything. Really, when I was already peer reviewing my coworkers' code for, code reviews and stuff like that. Now I'm just reviewing the agent's code all of the time and working incrementally. So not just saying, hey, build me a Spotify clone.
Yeah.
You work component to component, break down your requirements, what you're really expecting, and really you decompose everything the same way that you would when you're making tickets or work items for your Kanban board or something like that. And that's how I really work with Windsurf, and that's my preferred IDE. I also work with Claude sometimes just when I'm using some LLMs and VS Code, and like I have this connector called continue.dev, and you could just pick different agents you can work with. I'll use Claude Sonnet in there.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I whenever I build anything with this, and it's what I've realized is how useful it is. We said the need. So my dev team's too busy. They have a backlog that is like it grows every day, right? And so their time's precious. But oftentimes my colleagues have a basic need of something where they're working. There's too much like manual labor. Things aren't automated. And I'm like, wow, I could just write you a script to do that task. And so what I do typically is I interview my colleagues. Yeah. And I say, like, what are you doing that's like time consuming? And I create a little basic web app for them. I, deploy it within the hour, and they're already up and running and using it. And it's like the fact that you can do that stuff with like, make and have real authentication, it's secure, right? It's like, it's incredible what you're able to build fast. And I know that by doing that, I'm taking the heat off the dev team so they can focus on the big, product roadmap changes. And I can also make it more efficient for people. And for me, that's like, it takes some time out of my day, but in fact, it's actually probably less time than like getting people requests. So like requests for data pools or something from the database, right? Or analyzing stuff. It's like, if I just give you the tools to do this yourself, it'll save me time. It'll save you time, and everybody's happy.
Right.
And this is a long way of saying this. So I found to build those things, the more time I spend in the planning, the architecting, the whole process takes way longer up front to get everything set. And then, like you said, incrementally rolling that out and monitoring it. Because it's crazy how if you let things rip, it's all of a sudden you are, 10 blocks down the road in the wrong direction. Yeah. That is a thing I'm not confident enough yet in the tools to be able to just like basic stuff. Oh, just go build me the Spotify clone. Like, no, that's insane to me. I'm not confident enough yet. Not to say we're not going to get there, but I agree. Right. I think having that like incremental approach and doing a lot of prep work before you get there is a big deal.
That's just the way to use the tool currently. And as the tool becomes better, we're able to use it in different ways, like telling it to just build the Spotify clone.
Yeah.
Someday, somehow.
And that's kind of my prediction, though, with where we're headed with all this stuff is, sadly, I don't think we're going to do less work. I think in many ways, it's not like, just let it go and it'll do the Spotify clone. I'm going to go like hit the gym. Like, no, what's going to happen is you're going to be expected to be like, can you have a full demo of this up and running in an hour? And then if that works, then now give me 3 versions of this. Like, my prediction is that we're going to be so much more productive, especially engineers, and especially full stack engineers are going to be way more in demand. Right? Because it's like, you can do everything. So we don't need to hire this whole engineering team. We have you and all these agents. Now build me the same thing, but quicker. Right? Like, and that's my prediction, which I'm not going to say is necessarily a bad thing, but I do think it's the expectations are going to be so much higher for what you have to do as a solo full stack engineer.
Yeah, I 100% agree. There's going to be a shift like that. I think that, I forget what law it is, but it says like the whole idea is that as much time as you give somebody to do something, that's how long they're going to take to do it.
Yeah.
Our 40-hour weeks aren't going to get any shorter by having AI productivity. We're going to just be changing our efforts and where they lie to facilitate the same thing.
Yeah.
And, like you said, for better or for worse for some people, I guess.
Well, I see, I'll say that I think there's going to be a lot of what you were describing too of like, I spend a lot of time reviewing code, like not writing it anymore or as often, but I review a lot of it.
Yeah. I mean, I guess I can see I have an interest in every part of it. So, I love that. I'm glad that I feel like my psychology minor is actually helping me work with AI more effectively than some people accept its adoption just from being a little more open-minded within the technical space. I feel like highly technical people are still pretty skeptical about AI, and I'm not saying it's going to be better than us. It's just there's some way it fits into the picture. Otherwise, nobody would have really made it and related it to what we're doing here, dude.
I mean, one of the things I am worried about, because I've seen it in myself too, like my role really never required me to be writing too much code and being that technical. I had to have an understanding of it. But already I feel like in some ways I've actually been coding more than ever. But at the same time, like if I had those basics, I force myself to learn that stuff. Right. So I can go through lots of lines of code and identify, like, it's funny. I was going through like, what's it called, for different auth stuff and getting, doing a lot of different API calls that I was running on this one project. And I understand how those are structured so I can go in there and audit it. But I'm like, I feel like a lot of these fundamentals are going to be just completely lost from younger, people coming up in the industry if they aren't forced to take the time to slow down to like learn the language, right? Or learn the process. Is that something you've experienced? Yeah. I know you're an instructor, so have you been seeing that kind of creep get in there where people are just not willing to put in the time to do it slow?
Yeah. I definitely think that I'm starting to see that as more people come over and learn about web development and software engineering. They're like, hey, I mean, the AI can just kind of do this for me now. And I'm like, all right, do you know why I made this decision or not? Like, I'm still reviewing this code and AI still makes mistakes. Can you even look at the code and just call out a bug if there's one staring right at you in the face? It's
Hmm.
really like you should understand what you're using and then understand the pain points that AI is relieving for you, not just using it to be using it. And yeah, I did get more and more students like asking for tutoring because like, hey, this is not really like I'm having trouble wrapping my head around this, and I tried to make my own app that does this, that, and the other,
Hmm.
and I don't even know what's going on here. I'm like looking, well, why did you decide to use this? Oh, I don't know. The agent chose that.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, well, this is an anti-pattern.
Hmm.
I don't know why the agent chose that. If you nudged it, it probably would have corrected it, but you don't know how to nudge it in the direction that you need, to collaborate with AI, not just have it do everything for you.
Yeah. I think that's like I said, I think that's my concern. And also, like, I'm going to have to be working with, employing, and people for the rest of my career. And that is a concern. I think that, like, eventually you're going to run out of, or I should say, if you
Mhm.
develop those skills from a positive point, I recommend, if you're starting out and you're young right now, take online classes, go to your community college and like brush up
Yeah,
on coding skills, just basic language stuff. And, some of these old languages are maybe worth, just playing around with to learn the basics, which can be really fun. I
exactly.
mean, I enjoyed that. For me, it was like it was like a puzzle, right? To try to figure out how to get all these things working. So,
Yeah. I mean, I'd hate to see anything lost. Like even, they say like writing in cursive and handwriting and stuff is a dying skill. People don't know how to write in cursive at all anymore. I was like, oh, I was taught to write cursive in school at least. And I was born in 96, so at least there's that. But now I know there's a lot of people, they only know how to type. You ask people to write in cursive, I don't know, I can hardly just write.
hmm
And I don't know, I don't want coding fundamentals. Not saying that it would die out that fast, but we as humans, things just, come and go out of habit. People are doing less critical thinking and more leaning into agents and such, which I think we need to be utilizing them to their fullest power in the right way within our processes, not become lazy because of it.
So how do you stay on top of like what's out there in the world? Like for me, I follow different Substack authors. I watch videos. I follow people on YouTube. Um, I go to industry events too. I definitely try to do that. In fact, I have 3 that I'm trying to book for this year. But how about yourself? Like, how do you stay current and stay on top of stuff?
Yeah. Yeah. I try to go to at least one conference a year, at least one. And then newsletters are great. I have like The Code by Superhuman. That's one of my favorite ones about like keeping me up to date on AI. And there's The Pragmatic Engineer. There's another one. Am I allowed to shout these out? Yeah,
Yeah,
for sure.
please. And I'll share my list with you even offline. I'd love to, get a list
Yes,
going. We can
yeah,
put them in the
please do.
comments.
That's how we do this. That's how we
Yeah.
do this.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then Bytes is another good one by Tyler McGinnis, just for React, like engineering and JavaScript world stuff, web development in general. It's a pretty good spread. So definitely newsletters is a favorite one for me, and I do take like a Gen Z approach and like load up some shorts, man, and just doom scroll a
Hmm.
whole bunch of tech reels. Like this is my dedicated learning time where I'm about to doom scroll. Tech reels only though. But there's a lot of things that are coming up in short form that, are cool little gotchas, tips, tidbits that you don't think of sometimes.
No, I've
So
seen how
that's
people
another
have
good.
built, you're right. It's a little short that shows like something they built that blows my mind because I'm like, I never in a million years would have thought to do that. Some of it's silly, some of it's weird. But the idea of like, I got this crazy app to do something, or I interacted with stuff in my house with my, I coded this myself. You're like,
Yeah.
oh, I do find those
And then
fascinating.
of course,
Um,
podcasts.
is
Yeah.
there
Yeah.
anything? Oh
You
yeah,
gotta
podcasts. I listen to a lot of podcasts as well when I walk my dog. Is there anything that you wish people would like ask you more, or like something about your approach, your career that you like rarely get asked?
Mm. I'll say I don't rarely get asked this. Now people ask way more, but I'm glad. They ask about like the human's role in programming and like with AI and everything. And feel like I've always thought about the human's role regardless because of the psychology thing and like human computer interaction. And I feel like I've always thought about both sides of the mirror too, like not just the end user and how we can make the app, more accessible and easier for them to use, but also the developer. How can we make it easier for the dev to build this out? What's the latest and greatest thing for dev productivity, And I'm finding that that's helping me have a more marketable skill set, but um, I wish people would ask me more about where is the human aspect of this? What makes this human centered? What can the AI not necessarily reproduce that keeps a human in the loop, which is a really big concept at Anthropic, which Anthropic is known for ethical engineering and ethical AI use. And I'm a real huge proponent of everything that they teach. Where is the human in the loop part of this for AI use? Or what is human centered engineering for when we're building apps? I'll say accessibility is something that's a big tip for junior engineers too. Accessibility matters way more than you think it does. So go ahead and double down and know what WCAG is and ALI and all the accessibility topics. Hit that. That's not optional learning. That's mandatory now. And it has moved from a nice to have to governance. There are laws stating that applications have to have that. But for accessibility, it took me volunteering for disabled people and underserved and underrepresented communities and stuff to realize, this actually makes a difference for some people to just go about life, to get information, to use your app. Let's say you're just a greedy billionaire or something like that. If you want to make the biggest buck and you want to get everybody's money, then your app should probably be accessible and blind people should probably be able to use it,
Yeah,
and deaf people
I
should
love you
probably be
saying
able
that.
to enjoy it.
When we were building my startup and I was the one who's making the site, we got dinged by our designer, thankfully, was like, by the way, your site's terrible for accessibility. I was like, what do you mean? Because I'd never even heard of it before. I didn't really think that was a thing you had to do. And she was like, this is what you can do audits. You go through the whole audit process. And even though we didn't get it 100% better, just going through the process, learning what you can do it was very eye-opening. And honestly, I love that you said that because I do think those are the opportunities if you want to get really good at, sure, there's front end, there's back end, there's full stack, like we're saying, you got to do it all. But you could sharpen your skills, whether it's security, like web security. I have this other podcast I recorded a couple weeks ago I haven't released yet, but it was all about AI and security and safety.
Oh, yeah.
Because I was like, if you're going to go into a field right now, what's a good field to go into? Well, you might start thinking about security and safety. Accessibility is another great recommendation. Yes, get all your skills across the board in full stack. But if you want to go really deep into something that would make you very attractive to have as a consultant or just a skill set you bring to the team, that accessibility is a great recommendation.
Big time. I definitely said those two, accessibility and security.
Yeah, we
Huge,
obviously don't have enough people working in that.
Largely underrated.
Yeah. Cool. Well, so are you developing anything yourself? Just I have my personal projects that tend to overlap with my interests, like you said. Are you developing anything on the side just to play around with outside of work?
Yeah, dude. Yeah. So a couple of projects that I completed recently were a productivity suite. I've been working on lead code and stuff like that because I was like, I need to keep those chops up a little bit.
Yeah, not just in the gym.
Lead code muscles. Yeah, not just in the gym, So, but I was like, this is a study habit, and I've been out of college for years. So I took a couple of my favorite productivity things, like a don't break the chain. You try to study every day, even if it's just 10 minutes, and you get to tick off that day on a calendar. That's great for me. I have ADHD, so the visual reminder is it's great fuel. And then also just putting my habits into a tracker and getting a streak and just visualizing that, writing down goals, having a Pomodoro timer built in too. I built this with Firebase Studio when it first came out. And so using that full stack approach for AI, I wasn't just trying to build the front end. It would build end to end your entire application in Next.js, using Next.js. So I was like, perfect. I already like Next. I already like, TypeScript, everything. Cool. Sweet. Let's do it. So that's why I really got into full stack engineering with AI too, playing around with Firebase Studio. So I built that habit tracker, and then I built a slight meetup clone because I'm talking to some people that are thinking about building this, that, and the other. And I was like, let's check out what events apps really have going on. So I did some research and just poured market research. I didn't even look myself. I was just playing with AI, man. So I had Claude do some market research and then use the export from that as the input for a Next.js app that would just print out what the optimal events app would like look like and what types of features we could have. But here's like the kicker I like is that you don't have to log in. A lot of people are getting tired of making
Oh
accounts,
yeah.
and if you can't just one click sign in with Google, they're already getting irritated, this, that, and the other. So how can we use the system? Maybe you just get a login link to your email whenever you want to actually access it. Something that just keeps the user's data personal. My system doesn't need all of your information. And a lot of systems these days, they just take all your information. I don't need all that. What events do you want
I'm
to go
digging
to?
that, dude. I think so much of the new solutions that are coming. So my whole theory is that disposable applications that are not for millions of users, they're hyper, personalized, that you just build them
Yeah.
for your little network of people. That's it. It's like, we don't even want people on this app. This is just for us to play around with. And honestly, like, there's a privacy element to it. That's great, right? You can but also then you don't have to be creating account after account or whatever, or, giving away your information, give away your data. Build your own app, invite only the VIP people you want on it. So I actually created a Dungeon Master Assistant app because I was realizing I do Dungeons and Dragons and I was a Dungeon Master, but like I don't have any of the gear anymore. I don't have the books. I don't have the, I don't have the maps. I don't have any of the tools that I should have as a dungeon master, but they're all online and most of it's free. It's like public domain. So I essentially built what I would wanted in a dungeon master assistant, where it's like I can do fog of war for the battle maps. I literally just recently put in YouTube playlists, so you can have your songs playing along, that you can like, oh, I'm in a battle, skip to this playlist. Oh, now we're just in a tavern, skip to this playlist.
Nice.
It also records your sessions and does like recaps for you. And so all these functionalities that I love, but at the same time, like I can just make them for me. I don't have to make this like app for, and also some of it's my frustration of being a head of product is you're always making compromises to try to appeal to everyone, right? Like, and you're never gonna, but you want to make it as accessible as possible, right? But also, you have to take into account so many different user types. It's incredible to be like, this is for me and my friends, and that's it. We can do whatever weird stuff we want to do, and that's who. Yeah. So anyway, and I do think these personalized disposable apps are going to be like taking over soon, is my prediction.
I love that, because that was like the third thing that I'm building that I just started, was because the budgeting app that I use has kept cranking up the price and I've had enough. I'm working on making my own budgeting app with a lot less functionality because they bloated it out now.
Yeah, because you only what you need, right? And you can customize
I need this little skeleton piece and I'm going to build it myself, and any of my homies that need it.
Honestly, thank you. I think that is the future right there. And I do think a lot of software companies should be shaking in their boots to be like, instead of making it too complex, you got to make it easy, flexible, customizable, or else you're going to be in the dustbin.
Yeah. They're like the microbreweries of software engineering now.
Yes. Yes, that's a good way to put it. Cool. Well, thank you so much, Vic. I don't really have any other questions, but why don't you tell listeners where they can find you, where they can, how they can find you online and interact with you.
Yeah, I am at the Dreaded Dragon everywhere. Find me on Instagram. That's kind of my eclectic page where I have all my bodybuilding and music ventures. Keep up with me there. I also put my updates on little software engineering things, mainly a lot of reposts and such on X, so you can find me there. And then feel free, shoot me a connection request on LinkedIn. I'm at Vic Williamson on LinkedIn as well. Grow your network. That's the biggest thing you could really do for yourself, no matter what discipline you're in. And I think that's about it. Find me and hit me up. Let me know that you found me through here, and I'd love to collaborate. I'd love to chop it up.
All right, I'll be following you for sure on some of those other socials that I don't follow you on. I only follow you on LinkedIn, which is way too professional. That's not how I roll.
We're
great.
Good,
well, thank you for taking the time speaking with me today, and I'm definitely going to reach out about that financial app at some point.
Oh yeah.
All right. Thanks so much, Vic.
Thanks, Lucas. See ya.